So my name is Andras Porras Verwayen. I go by Mr. Porras because Porras Verwayen is a bit of a mouthful for the kiddos, but I'm a grade 4 teacher here at St. Clair. Um, I've been working on Courageous Conversations, and I'm the in my grade 4 class. I'd done it a little bit last year. I've been working with Jen Perry, our wonderful social studies consultant, on some really cool things around simulations as well. So that's me.
Awesome. Yes, we're so excited. So this idea came to fruition. I am Jen Perry, I'm the elementary social studies consultant. Andres has been piloting and we just thought about, he brought up that he's been using these courageous conversations and we thought it would be great to share all the amazing things he's doing in his classroom with you. So here's our agenda. Andreas is going to lead us through a courageous conversation refresher and then thinking about point of view introduction. We're going to dig into some Project Zero thinking routines. If you haven't seen them before, it'll be a great way to showcase them and hopefully inspire you to dig a little further. We'll talk about accountability talks and accountable talks. And then hearts on, hands on, minds on, social on with simulations. It's actually this model, this framework is something we're going to be doing as we launch new social studies curriculum, that hearts on, hands on, minds on, social on. So you're going to hear it often. We'll review some assessment strategies and then some time for Q&A and any discussions or thoughts you may have. Just a reminder that this is our mission and vision and the board of priorities as well. And I believe these courageous conversations hit every single board or every single priority, so that's pretty awesome. This is the hearts on, minds on, hands on, social on model. So the hearts on is really for students to connect emotionally, feel joy, be inspired, and develop that empathy, which the courageous conversations definitely does. There's the minds on element, where students are thinking critically, they're reflecting, there's opportunities for them to question and analyze. And then that hands-on will show you some opportunities for some play and design. And then that collaborative piece where our students are essentially learning from each other. I threw this in because the curriculum has not been finalized, so I'm hesitant to show elements of it until it's completely finalized. It will be any moment, any day, it should be finalized. But this is from Alberta Education. I've linked a lot of links in the slide deck notes. This one is about resource selection, and I just liked it. I thought it fit perfectly because it talks about selecting resources. Resources containing publicly or personally sensitive topics may be an integral part of student learning. Sensitive topics may help prepare students for responsible participation in a democratic and pluralistic society, to reason logically and to examine different points of view in order to make sound judgments. I liked this because we don't need to shy away from sensitive topics. We need to prepare our students to have those courageous conversations. So I linked that. And then thinking about our whole, we have courageous conversations, but we really do have critical thinking. And we hear that all the time, like we want our students to be critical thinkers. But what does that actually mean? This document is linked in here. There are the competencies in the draft curriculum, but I'm assuming they'll stay the same. And so when you click on what critical thinking is, in social studies, it involves evaluating arguments and engaging in new ideas and diverse perspectives, differentiating between fact and opinion, questioning assumptions. So I think Andreas does a really great job of this, where he makes his students question their assumptions and revisit some of their assumptions. So it's a great document. This competencies in social studies, I know we'll delve more into it as new curriculum is released, but that is what critical thinking is, and it's a perfect segue into our presentation today.
Okay, so I'm going to give a little bit of an introduction or maybe a review on the 4 agreements of courageous conversations now. This poster and this framework comes to our district by way of our racial justice or JEDI team. And the purpose of these 4 agreements of courageous conversations is it's a way to build a Catholic community of caring by giving us as teachers a way to give our students the tools to have disagreements while still maintaining community. The 4 agreements are be present, be brave, be honest, and be patient. And what that means in practice or more deeply is be present means if we're having a conversation, we're going to stay on topic. I use courageous conversations quite a lot in my teaching practice. So say there's an argument around something that happened on the soccer field. Well, we're being present, so we're only talking about what happened at this recess. We're not going to bring up things that happened a couple of weeks ago. So we're going to stay present. Be brave. Now, for this one, it's about becoming comfortable with being uncomfortable. So when we're talking about sensitive topics, when we're talking about things like, for example, residential schools, that might make you feel uncomfortable, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't talk about this. Because if we don't talk about these issues, we can't resolve them. And if we can't resolve them, then the hurt still is still there. The word that I found really kind of stands out for me in my grade 4 practice is the word like awkward. They seem to understand that really well. And then it's okay to say, hey, I don't really know that much about something, and it's okay to say that. The next one is be honest. So being honest, another way to say that is speak your truth. And that means that, if I am hurt by something, it's okay, and I'm invited to share that something hurt my feelings. Now, I'm not allowed to be rude as a result of that. So I'm allowed to say, hey, it really hurt my feelings when you, I don't know, scored the goal in soccer, but I don't get to say, you're the worst human being in the world or you're a poopy head because you scored a goal when we were on timeout or something like that. There's a lot of soccer metaphors that I use. So you have to be respectful. You have to respect respect others. And then the final one is, and each of them I think is key in different situations, but this one, be patient, is the one that I think gets the most use or is the most useful. And being patient means we're not going to be able to solve this issue in a conversation. What being patient means is we can agree to disagree. We can agree that we're not going to, that we disagree at this moment, and we can still continue as a Catholic community of caring moving forward. For being patient, especially, the way I describe it to them, especially if we're talking about really sensitive issues, maybe we're talking about racism or, again, residential schools, what I tell them is we're not going to solve this issue in one conversation. We're not going to solve it before recess. We're not going to solve it before lunch. We might not solve it in a year's worth of conversations. But what we're saying when we're patient is we might disagree, but we know that we love each other. We're members of the same Catholic community of caring, and we expect and we respect each other's opinions. And that, the being patient one is the one that really stands out the most. In addition to the 4 agreements, there's also this compass here. And Jen, if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide. So this compass is really useful for having a bit of a gut check for yourself of where am I coming into this conversation from? So am I coming into it from a courage point of view or wisdom or justice or self-control? And if I'm coming in from that point of view, by understanding where you're coming into this conversation, it'll help you engage better within the conversation. So say I'm going to use the soccer, two students were playing soccer. Someone's coming in saying it's not fair. Well, they're coming in from the justice point of view. That's the compass that they're coming into this conversation. And if we can kind of teach our students to understand both the 4 agreements of courageous conversation and this compass as well, it can make really difficult situations, difficult conversations. It can help you resolve really difficult conversations. An example that I use just in my own life is I use 4 agreements of courageous conversations quite often. I used it this past Christmas to tell my mother-in-law that I love cookies, but I really don't like raisin cookies. So I was honest. I spoke my truth. I was respectful. I said they were delicious. You know, and then I was patient and we resolved it, but I understood that perhaps we wouldn't be able to resolve this conversation just in one conversation. So I know that they all got, you know, we all got a poster of the 4 agreements of courageous conversations. There's lots and lots of stuff on the Jedi EPD site to give you tools, and I'm open to sharing some of my resources and some of my experience as well.
Yeah. So really thinking about it as not just a poster that you hang on your wall, but really unpacking it and using it so that it becomes really familiar to students. It's a tool, like a routine. Students, every time you use it, we're going to unpack that a little bit as well as we go. So this one, Andres, go ahead.
Yeah. So one of the ways that I like to introduce the courageous conversations is by doing it in a low stakes way. So we're going to practice our courageous conversations, and, you know, who likes cheeseburgers versus hamburgers. Another way that I like to do it is by pointing out to students that we can look at the same image or the same situation and we can have a completely different point of view from it. So what we bring into the into a conversation or an issue will shape what we see. So I like to show them this this type of image, and I like to say, okay, well, do you see a bunny here or do you see a duck? And I'll have them stand on either ends of the room. Okay, if you're over here, if you see a duck, and if you're over here, you see a bunny, and if you can see both, you can stand in the middle. And then I have them talk to each other, to the people that are around them, and practice this courageous conversation by talking about, okay, well, I see a bunny, and some people might say, I really don't see a duck at all in it. I only see a bunny, or some people can see both. If you go to the next slide, Jen, the other, Jen has linked a website here as well, where you can see more images like it. And I think there's a video as well that you wanted to show.
Yeah, there's just this one is just the reading. I'm sure many of you have this book in your library, The Duck Rabbit. It's just a really cute reading by 2 guys who read it. I like the reading of it. There are some resources, and then there's more images like the Duck Rabbit. So once again, starting at that low stake, would you rather opportunities, like kind of like a little brain break opportunities, and then your students will have a taste of some of those courageous conversations when it comes to more challenging ones that arise. Okay. Thinking about the Project Zero thinking routines, if you haven't heard of them, our district is doing a push. So every month we showcase, the Learning Services showcases one learning routine. Last week we did Sheena Bifford, the science consultant, and Marta Alberton. She works with Calgary Campus Open Minds. We did a co-taught on a thinking routine called CSI, Color, Symbol, Image. So we've been really trying to showcase one routine every month. And I'm going to open them just so you can see what it looks like. They were developed by Harvard. So they're some pretty smart people who've been working on them. They've been around for a while, and I've linked it here. And you can actually do like a search if you're looking for, I don't know, math ones or specific ones, and you can also say specific grades. And they are linked into the core thinking routines. So they are a routine. You have to utilize them numerous times for your students to really get familiar with them. So you're not introducing a ton of them. Think of like a seed, think, wonder is an example of a thinking routine. And it just helps hash out some of your students' thinking and make it more visible to themselves and also to you. And there's lots of great ones on perspective taking. There's different ways that they've been sorted. You can dig into them, and they just kind of break it down, usually into a one-pager. Sometimes there's a video as well that is, you can dig in a little bit deeper. This is a template that has all of the thinking routines kind of broken down into an understanding map. So I think today we're really focusing on describing different viewpoints and maybe making some connections. But these are the core routines that could be great if you wanted to consider deep perspectives. Peeling the fruit is really awesome. And there's another one called Tug of War. circle points, and compass points is really great for Div 2. So they're all linked with some resources. A group of educators also built out this website. It's called Thinking Pathways. They took the thinking routines and they created a lot of templates. I'll showcase some of them for you. So they're broken down into here. They also have a podcast too. So we'll go into the routines for digging deeper into ideas. They have ads and they have, I really liked this. They kind of broke down what the routines are good for. So for example, the tug of war routine, it's identifying and building both sides of an argument, the circle of viewpoints. They did a really great one. And then you can see when I click on one of them, it has like a little one-pager. And they have often like the routine in action, a little video. And some of them, not this one, but some of them have templates that you can print off for your students or a link to how you could document their thinking. Often thinking routines can just be done in visual journals or through a conversation. So sometimes you don't actually have to have anything to document. So those are the Project Zero thinking routines. We can pause too. If you have any questions, you can always unmute or throw them in the chat. Maybe, Andres, can you monitor the chat a little bit?
Yep.
Awesome. So this is all linked in here. I've linked all of them, so you can go check those out as well. And they're very simplistic. They have them really well organized for you, so they're not overwhelming, but I encourage you to really use them as a routine. So even thinking about, there's the routine, I know Andreas, when I was in his class, used what makes you say that. That's a really good one as well. So check out some of those ones.
One of the ones that I use quite a lot is the circle of viewpoints, because when you follow the routine, you literally sit around a circle and you move around to different points of view on an issue. So that's a really strong routine that I used as we were debriefing things like our fur trade simulation, or that one was the one where we got the most use out of it, where everybody got to be literally sit in a different point of view, and they were able to kind of frame their thinking or walk in someone else's shoes or see it from a different point of view. When it comes to having any of this type of conversation or thinking routines or courageous conversations, what I found in my practice is that it's important to give students the language that they use to disagree with. So it's important to give students sentence frames that they can use to disagree with, because what I've found in my grade 4 practice, at least, is they don't know how to disagree in a way that builds a constructive conversation. So I've taught them how to say or how to have these conversations with these accountability talks or accountable talks. You can find lots of like posters are available with these on there if you want. And it's just things like, I agree with so-and-so because blah, blah, blah. Or I disagree because. Or what are your thoughts on, or this makes me think of, or, well, what did you mean when you say? And by giving students these sentence frames, it allows these conversations to be more productive. It allows us to have that courageous conversations and be honest without being, while still being respectful. It's been really useful. As an example that I was sharing with Jen before is, we're hatching ducks in our classroom right now. We're at a point where we have to decide if we're going to keep some eggs in the incubator or if we're not going, and which ones we're going to keep and which ones we're going to compost. And we had a class discussion on this topic. Now, this is a high stakes topic for my class, and using our courageous conversations and our accountability talks, we were able to have a class discussion that didn't devolve into name calling, that didn't devolve into, like big feelings or big emotions, because, people were able to say, I disagree. One example of something that a student said is, I disagree. I think we should keep all the eggs in there because you know, God gives us humans lots of chances, so we should give the eggs an extra chance to do it. And then someone said, well, you know, I'm not sure I agree with this because the instructions say that if we don't see a duckling growing in there, we should take it out. So we should follow the instructions. So we were able to have this conversation as a class, and still come out of it and still be friends and be a Catholic community of caring, even if we disagreed. So this has been a great tool to implement courageous conversations.
Yeah, awesome. And it's routine, right? And you can start anytime. It doesn't have to be in September. Like, it's always a good time to introduce these if you haven't been using them in your classroom. Okay, this is how we're going to connect it to a simulation. So what is a simulation? We have historical reenactments, societal simulations, role-playing, interviews, or debates. So you can think about, like, your students, if you've ever taken your students to like the one-room schoolhouse in Heritage Park. We did a historical simulation together as a fur training. We have a link to that. And then there's also Student Vote just happened. I'm going to share a resource for K-3 teachers, but many grade 4, 5, 6 teachers participated in Student Vote recently. So that is a simulation. And then just having opportunities for students to role play. I was in a class recently where students planned a whole trip to Tunisia. They turned their classroom into like an airport. So thinking about those ideas, and it's really about play in all grades. I thought I would link this here. As the draft stands, there is opportunities for democracy in younger grades where students like simulate elections. Piloting teachers did order this material. It's really awesome. You get like a voting box and a whole bunch of resources that go with it. And it is an election simulation for kindergarten to grade 3. And the idea is they have to choose a class mascot. It sounds simplistic, but these kids had to have, or the students that piloted did have to have courageous conversations because their mascot wasn't necessarily the one that was chosen, or they might not have agreed with their friends. It was interesting to unpack. It does seem low stakes, but not necessarily when you're 5 or 6. So I just wanted to link that. It's great. It's free, and you can order it as well. And then this is the one. I'll just showcase what it looks like. It was designed for a grade 4, 5. I tweaked it a little bit, but originally it came from U of A, and it was just about how I've done this in many classrooms where students go out and they're assigned specific groups. So you could be a part of the Hudson Bay Fur Traders or the Northwesterns and an Indigenous group, and they have to trade actual cards and go, and there's different scenarios where they have to go, and they learn a little bit along the way about the different elements of the fur trade. But there are scenarios where, for example, in one of them, one Indigenous group gets smallpox, and half of their Indigenous group is wiped out. They succumb to smallpox. So there's some great opportunity for play, and that simulation comes to life as well. Do you want to add anything to that, Andreas?
Yeah.
You took it a step further too.
Yeah, I came to this like simulation thing because I connected with Jen, and one of the things that I noticed was how great this was for like UDL in my classroom. So I was struggling a lot in figuring out a way to engage those students that aren't like the strongest readers, but they do understand these concepts and they do like engage with it. When Jen came into the classroom, I was able to watch and see, you know, my one student who has difficulty reading is super engaged in it, is raising their hands, is sharing their experiences in a way that I hadn't been able to get this child to engage in social studies before. So one of the comparisons that one of my students made was like, well, we have experiments in science. What do we have for like what's the equivalent for social studies? And it's really these type of simulations I found have been really great for UDL, for making the curriculum come alive, and just it's really engaging. We really enjoyed it. We made quite a meal of it. It was good.
Awesome. So there will be opportunities as the new curriculum gets released for a lot of role playing and fun. And I know many piloting teachers made like readers theater scripts that meet curriculum. So there will be opportunities for some simulations and hands-on. And then going back to this, we unpacked this a little bit as students learned about different perspectives about like colonization came up in grade 4, right? And thinking about the different perspectives of Canada's history isn't always rosy, and unpacking it a little bit. This is another simulation that I learned about this one, I think, a couple of years ago. I went to a session and it uses the hands-on, minds-on, hearts-on model as well. And it is about the Japanese internment camps. It's recommended also for grade 4 plus, and it really develops skills of historical empathy, where I probably won't go into the video, but there is a little video that's linked. There's another 3-minute video, and then there's another 15-minute recording that really unpacks it. This was actually designed, he is a grade 3-2 teacher in BC, but he does feel like it should be around grade 4. But students are assigned a specific family, like a real life family, and they learn about them. They see their house. They make like little things for inside the house. And then the simulation is that they go to an internment camp and they have to sell all their possessions. And then they move from the bulletin board to like another bulletin board. That's the internment camp. And the family actually goes and they get another house. It's an amazing simulation. There are some really great lessons that go with it about injustice and fair treatment. There are some lessons that could also go to Div 1 as well. There's a few, it's a very deep project. So there's the fair unfair game that unpacks goes into stereotyping based on like eye color. They're very well developed by educators and Canada's history. So if you are a Div 2 teacher, that could be something that you explore as well. So thinking about new social studies in particular, I know it's still in draft, but there'll definitely be great conversations about First Nations, Métis, and Inuit cultures and histories. And we have to unpack some of that, thinking about reconciliation and colonization. Also, cultural expressions. We will have conversations about racism and immigration and discrimination. Also, current events, as everything, our students need to learn about current events, and we need to make sure we're having those conversations. And sometimes it's not always rosy. So are we preparing our students to have those courageous conversations? And the point is, we don't all have to agree on everything. We need to be able to have conversations where we can be courageous and leave feeling, yes, we were heard, but not necessarily that everyone has to agree all the time. There are a few more resources as we move into June is Indigenous Peoples Month. It's a great opportunity to celebrate Indigenous culture, but also to reflect. And there are some lesson plans from K to 12 on difficult conversations and residential schools. And then just a reminder that this really isn't a poster that should just be hung up in your classroom. I've seen teachers who have it on clips, who take it down. I've seen teachers give it to students in the hallway when they're after, like, it's always soccer. Soccer brings out the worst in kids, but it also prepares them to be able to handle some of those, resolution and conflict, right? We want our students to be able to have the strategies for that. But I've seen teachers take it off the clip and just like hand it to the students, and they are able to take it and go through it and resolve some of their recess conflict using this poster. So that's pretty awesome. Okay, we have a couple more minutes. I know or maybe just we'll wrap up really quickly. Your assessment is really informative. Thinking about those accountability talks, you can just listen to your students have those talks and make notes. I've linked this one back to those specific sentence stems that Andreas provided. Your visual journal, it's a great opportunity for your students to show what they know. And then the thinking routines have a lot of templates that you can print. That Thinking Pathways site that was created by teachers has a lot of printable templates, or you can just use a journal. And then also just having your students to self-reflect. That could be journaling, or even just having a conversation with you, just an opportunity to reflect on their own courageous conversations. There are some considerations. I liked this one because you have to be considerate when using historical simulations, and it unpacks like using them with care and being mindful of what the intention is. So starting with that why. And then Andreas, I'm doing a quick plug for I had 200 teachers attend my May 16th PG session about curriculum implementation for K-3. The messaging is don't buy anything. This is a printable that you can print on your fridge for your staff room, and just share the word that there are tons of resources being created. The curriculum is being finalized at any moment, but there's tons of resources, and many of them have thinking routines embedded in them. And there will be opportunities to really unpack Courageous Conversations as well. Okay, Andres, want to end with this one?
So the final point of wherever you are in your journey of implementing Courageous Conversations is the one thing that I always bring it back to when I have this conversation with my class, or if I'm sharing it with other teachers, is just pick one thing that you can do better. So, maybe you do a who likes hamburgers versus cheeseburgers in your class. Maybe you put up the bunny duck picture there. Just the takeaway is just think of one thing that you can do better, or one way that you can implement Courageous Conversations, and go there, and then you can build on top of that. And I found that's been really helpful way to either frame difficult conversations, or to just kind of get started on this type of work.
Exactly. Start small. Start small. Yeah. If anyone else has any questions or thoughts, I love the fact that Andreas actually brought this up and he was like, can we do this together? And there's so many amazing things going on in your classrooms. If you ever want to share something and do like a 30-minute after school PG, I would love to tag team that with you as well. So thank you for taking this on, Andreas. It was really great to share your expertise.
Well, thank you, Jen. Yeah. No, this has been great. Yeah. If anyone has questions, you can pop it into the chat as well, and I can say it out loud.
Well, we do want to be respectful of your time, but if you want to stay on, or if you have a question, feel free to stay on. And I'll stop the recording, but thank you for taking the time. I know we were just discussing how busy it is. We really appreciate you taking the time. And we can't wait to see how you are using Courageous Conversations and thinking routines and simulations in your classrooms. There we go.